Hi everyone, today we're here to talk about Blue Origin's NG-1 flight, trying to look at it from a newbie's perspective of what we need to know about and what to look out for in the future. So let's get started. So as you guys know, NG-1 flight was supposed to be launched for the first time on Monday, 5 p.m. KST. That's kind of my time period because I'm in Korea. In LC-36, but they had technical issues. Apparently there was hydraulic line freezing happening, so they waited around 3 hours. That was their maximum time that they were going to wait. And in the end, it has moved to this coming Thursday at 1 a.m. Eastern time. So that would be 4 p.m. Korean time. So some background information to know about this is Blue Origin was founded by Jeff Bezos, who was the ex-CEO of Amazon. And this Blue Ring Pathfinder is the name of the spacecraft that will actually be in space, or I guess be shooted in space. And they call it the word payload. Now, New Glenn is the name of the full spacecraft, so it's with the payload and the booster and everything. We'll talk about more of the spacecraft terminology later on. And a bit about this New Glenn made from Blue Origin is that it's bigger than Falcon 9, which is the SpaceX production. For those who don't know what SpaceX is, or the company SpaceX, it's the company that was made by Elon Musk. Now, New Glenn uses the BE-4 engine, which contains LNG, which is liquefied natural gas. So what liquefied natural gas is basically a liquefied version of methane. And how you create that is by cooling it to minus 162 degrees Celsius. There are different documentations saying it's either 162 or 164, but very cold. All we have to know is that to liquefy methane or natural gas, it has to be super duper quadruple coldness of what you're used to. And what's really good about the liquefied natural gas is that it's easy for transportation and it can be used for a lot of household heating, gas, and more. So later on, liquefied natural gas might be something to look into if you guys are planning on maybe investing, because some people do say that might be the future. Others are kind of like, no, we'll still be stuck with the crude oil. So if you guys are ever interested, that would be like a good region to look into. So in New Glenn, 7 BE-4 engines are being powered inside the booster, which is the part that boosts the payload. So, once it separates, the bottom part that comes back to Earth is the booster. And 2 of the BE-4 engines drive the first stage of the launch vehicle. So that's also extra power being supported to send the aircraft or the spacecraft into space. So basically using total of 4. Now in the second stage, where it's the payload being sent off to space, they will be powered by 2 BE-3Us, which uses liquid oxygen, which makes sense because once you are in that area, there are no oxygen. So you need the extra boost, along with liquid hydrogen engines designed to yield over 320,000 pound force of vacuum thrust together. That is what Blue Origin has created. So here are a couple of spacecraft terminology that I found useful when I was trying to read a lot of the Blue Origin related news. Fairing is the nose cone used to protect a spacecraft payload against the impact of dynamic pressure, aerodynamic heating during launch through an atmosphere. That was like the Wikipedia or like the fancy definition. But the easy meaning is basically it's a protection cover that once the payload, the front part of the aircraft, is being shooted out in the space, it breaks off. So I guess it's a protection from all the heat that's being forced on when it's going up into the air. And so something about fairing that I found important later on is that this cannot be reused as of right now. There are rumors that SpaceX is trying to reuse this by searching inside the ocean and everywhere, but they cannot find it. So maybe I'm thinking, another task would be to recover these because they're being thrown out in space, air, sky, that area. So maybe that would be the next task that SpaceX will be trying to do. So that's something to look out in the future. LC-3 is a launch complex in Florida. So a lot of space companies do their launching in this area. If you're ever in Florida, I would actually stop by this location to look into it because I think it's really cool. But one thing that's unfortunate is that weather is being very dependent on whether or not spacecraft can be sent. That was also a big reason why NG-1 flight had been delayed to Monday because of the weather condition wasn't supporting the atmosphere or like the situation. So that's something to look out for. And booster is also a very important part and something that's been more well known lately because of SpaceX, because they ended up reusing the booster, but it's the part of the spacecraft that boosts the payload to the sky and ends up now landing safely. Why I wanted to focus on the word booster is what SpaceX has done, where instead, long time before SpaceX has come up with this technology, what ended up happening was that the booster, since it goes in like this arc shape, would be thrown in either the ocean or somewhere that they cannot retrieve it. And that was actually a waste of a lot of money. So very inefficient. However, SpaceX has created different methodology by adding in sensors and ways to navigate the booster onto a safer location so that they can retrieve it without damaging it. That actually became one of the sensation in the spacecraft industry. So there are a couple of videos that I recommend watching. It's really cool where it launches. There's two. It launches and the booster safely lands onto a platform. Was the first ever successful retrieve of the booster. And now they made it into a super fancy one where the booster goes up in this parabola. And then on the top of the parabola, they find a way to do a 180 turn vertically and makes it goes down so that it comes back to where it started. Having the tower grab onto the booster by these like chopstick like clams. And they were able to do this successfully in their first try. So highly recommend watching those two videos. It's amazing. So hopefully these terminologies will help you understand a couple of the news related to spacecraft. Here are some companies that you should know that are making spaceships that are pretty famous. First one is Boeing. Their spaceship is called Starliner 737 MAX. That one's the most popular one, but I guess they're more popular in a bad way because they actually launched it to the space with astronauts inside. However, the capsule experienced a leak of helium, which pushes fuels into the propulsion system. So several of its thrusters did not work properly. And so NASA was kind of like, you know what? Because of the astronaut safety and the current condition of what's happening with the capsule, I think we can't fix this problem. I think we should leave the astronauts in space till next SpaceX flight. So right now, the astronauts have been in space for almost 6 months or almost 4 months. I think the article that I read was back in September. So they've been there for a while, and there are chances they might have to be there till May, which is not a good sign for Boeing because it's stating that Boeing's capsule technology has actually failed. However, we saw the landing of the capsule. There wasn't any explosion or something bad. They landed safely with 3 parachutes falling down. So some people might say, you know what? NASA should have trusted Boeing. But NASA probably had their own reasons of why they didn't want the astronauts to be inside Starliner. You know, if there's even like 5% chances of them being danger, I would also agree with NASA for not taking the risk, right? Better safe than sorry. So that was a huge incident happening with Boeing. The next company is obviously SpaceX. They have Falcon 9, Starship. Starship will be having their launch also soon, I recall. But a little bit about Falcon 9 is that it's 230 feet, which is much smaller than Blue Origin's New Glenn. And Falcon 9 has a 23-ton capacity for the payload. And Falcon 9 uses the Merlin engine, which is a mix of RP-1, which is kind of the standard fuel for rockets. A lot of spacecraft uses them. And liquid oxygen. Like I said, liquid oxygen is pretty necessary for every aircraft. And for Starship, they are using the Rapid engines. And NASA, their biggest project is Artemis, where they want to go back to the moon. So that's been going on for a while. But right now, they're mostly just doing contract things out to private sector these days because it seems like they are more underfunded. And one chat told me Virgin Galactic might be doing something, but I haven't had good luck of searching for it. So if anyone knows about the Virgin Galactic aircraft, let me know in the comments below and I'll get back to you ASAP. So here are some things that I wanted to make assumptions for or what we'll be looking out for. So New Glenn's launch coming up this Thursday. Hopefully no more technical issues and we'll have a safe launching. Though the chances of being successful, I would have to say maybe 20%. But because it's their first launch and, you know, nothing goes perfect on the first launch. However, I would have to say Blue Origin is far behind than expected than SpaceX. So they do have to speed up their games, which is something that I realized. Now, Boeing's recovery of Starliner, as you guys know, after their technical failure and leaving of 2 astronauts in space. Will they come back for better technology? Well, to be honest, I think maybe Boeing should really work on their aircraft first, you know, making sturdy and good plane. Because, you know, they had kind of design issues. Maybe their self-inspection was causing the 737 MAX to be in maybe a lot of the crashes. I read this article where it talked about the recent crashes starting from like 2018 and they had like 2 within 5 months in between. So I don't know, like I hope they fix their issues of making better aircraft before looking out into spacecraft, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. And lastly, I understand why SpaceX became the #1. It was amazing, the technology. I watched all the videos and finally understood why people were really hyped up about SpaceX's launches. So the technology that they are showing is amazing. If you guys have not seen it, I highly recommend seeing it. It is one of the most beautiful videos that just makes you drop your jaws. You know, everyone probably wants to buy SpaceX stock, but for those who are newbies like me, I have to tell you guys, it is a private company that probably only, you know, the government or the big people will be funding. So still look out for it. I think it's a great way of being in contact with how close we are getting to going to the moon. And I can see why Elon Musk was very excited to going to the moon. But in the end, for Blue Origin's flight, I know it took them 25 years to come this far, but compared to where SpaceX is, I wish they would become a really good competitors for SpaceX, which means that they really need to bring up their games. But I think maybe they were being a little ambitious because if you do like the spec checks between Falcon 9 and New Glenn, they are a little bit bigger and sturdier as they recall compared to Falcon 9, but I think if they're on more of the testing stage, it would have been better if they would test it more often. But like I said, any testing being done is a lot of money being invested, so that might be also a big reason why it was delaying them. But hopefully, if you guys are awake that late at night, I highly recommend watching the upcoming flight of New Glenn that's coming up this Thursday at 1 a.m. Eastern time. So thank you guys for watching, and if you guys have any questions or if you guys want to put in some of you guys' opinion related to this, let me know in the comments below and I'll be happy to read them all. So thank you guys for watching and see you guys in my next one. Bye guys!